So welcome. I'm glad to see everyone's like, I think now I know why they wear cowboy hats and sunglasses, right? Because unless you shield the lights, I can't see any of you guys, any of you girls. Okay, so we are going to cover book 1 in Psalms, the second half, and Terrell, when she asked me if I would teach on Psalms, I said, oh, absolutely, I love the Psalms. Well, little did I know how little I knew about Psalms. Because you read the Psalms, and I don't really think of them, like when you're doing Joshua, you're studying Joshua, and well, there's so many different authors and so many different things. But you do have a handout. You should have a handout that looks like this, and it breaks down the 5 books, as Christy taught us last week, how the first 5 books of the Bible follow the Pentateuch, and they're compiled intentionally by themes. I think the next slide, Rose, has. So, David is the most common author of Psalms. Approximately 73 are attributed to be written by him, and a third of the Bible is written as poetry. Do we have the one that has maybe I got them out of order, Rose, the one that has the book 1? There you go. So here we go. So Christy talked about how the first 2 books are like a preview. It's like, this is everything you're going to get. And how book 1 covers Genesis, and it talks about covenant and faithfulness. And so that's what I wanted to make sure on that. And so we're going to cover the second half of book 1 is what we're talking about today. Okay, thank you, Rose. Back to slide 2. I think I got them out of order, so that's my apologies to everyone. So now we're back to the right one. Okay, so a third of the Bible is written as poetry. A book of Psalms is a collection of collections of poetic prayers, which means it's one of 2 of the only books in the Old Testament to identify itself as a work that contains multiple authors. And so the other book is Proverbs. Therefore, it's called a collection. And as we know, book 1 opens and closes with the call to covenant and faithfulness. So on the handout, and it shows those 5 books, and you should each have one at your table. Book 1, David is the model of this covenant and faithfulness. David calls out to God for deliverance, and God elevates him as king. So Psalms, they're poems. Poetry is imagery. Poetry ignites the imagination by verbal, artistic words, repetitive language for you to look at the same thing but differently. They employ beautiful imagery and voice great emotion. You can experience many ideas and emotions through your imagination. All right, so I want you to close your eyes and visualize as I read the following. You are standing in a flower-filled meadow. What kind of flowers do you see? What's the wind doing? Is the sun shining on you? That's your imagery. Okay, now this one. You are standing on a beach, and the shimmering sun is sinking into the sea. Which island are you on? So that's how Psalms is. In Scripture, words symbolize different images that equate to different meanings. Darkness can mean bad, anti-God, wicked, opposite of light. Chaotic water, like in Genesis, a state of uncreation. Danger, evil, could mean dangerous people. Warring nations, or dry land, physical separation of water and land, safety or security, or building your house on a rock. How about a tree planted by living waters, by streams of waters, compared to a righteous person? The context of the word is going to be the important key to the meaning in the scripture. So Psalms is a prayer book of God's people who are striving to be faithful to his word and waiting for the Messianic kingdom. Now remember, the Psalms was written after the exile, so this is when, and they account it to maybe Ezra or some of the other prophets putting all the books together, all these songs together, so they could remember. That's where it follows the journey from Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and it puts it all together. And in the Psalms, every emotion you can experience as a human being is in these Psalms. So now we have biblical poems, all the different types of poetry in Bible. Now I'm not going to get too much into the grammar or poetic construction. However, Psalms don't use meter like some traditions of poetry do. And they don't use rhyme the same way, kind of like what Christy showed us last week, roses are red, violets are blue. Biblical poems use what you call free verse. Now, they are structured by couplets, two short lines that are carefully worded and placed beside each other. The first line makes the basic statement, and the second line develops it in some way. It can do this by completing the thought or deepening it with different words or images, or by contrasting it in some way. Repetition is for emphasis and clarity. Just like in all scripture, some things are repeated over and over because we learn as humans by repetition. So for example, in this slide, I want you to see how the king rejoices in your strength, O Lord. He shouts with joy because you give him victory. So rejoices, joy, strength, victory. Psalms 21:9, you will throw them in a flaming furnace when you appear. The Lord will consume them, and in his anger, fire will devour them. Throw them, consume, flaming furnace, fire will devour. So it just emphasizes what the first line said, and gives you just a more vibrant picture of what's going on. Now the Psalms, we were talking about this at our group earlier about the different poetic forms and types. Psalms covers a great variety of poetic forms: laments, hymns of praise, hymns of thanksgiving, hymns of celebrating God's law, wisdom psalms, confidence, historical, prophetic hymns, and sometimes they're a combination. Trying to identify that it's exactly just a Thanksgiving song or just a praise song or just a wisdom song. I'm going to start with talking about the songs of lament. The songs of lament outnumber any other type of psalm. They are heartfelt expressions of sorrow, grief, distress, or pouring out of emotions. They're your feelings. A lament is a psalm in which the author complains to God about his current, oh, woe is me, circumstances and hardships. But then it's a call upon him to deliver him. Psalms 20s through 23, David of the past has become an image through those of the Messianic King. So as you're reading through those, as you're doing your reading this next week, also look and see all the different places you see Jesus foretold as he is going to be your coming king. David confesses his fears, failures, anger. He offers thanks and gives praise to his Redeemer God. Now, Psalms 25 is another type of psalm. It's an acrostic psalm, and it's also a lament. In the Hebrew Bible, each verse begins with the succeeding letter of the Hebrew alphabet with occasional irregularity. I know no Hebrew, but this is just to give you an idea of what it was. And the Hebrew alphabet isn't like our ABC alphabet. So when it says it's an acrostic, for us, in the Western world that don't know Hebrew, it really didn't mean a whole lot to me. But if you were Hebrew, it followed your alphabet, and so you would recite it in that way. This psalm is one of the ones that goes from a lament to praise to thanksgiving. So I'm going to look at Psalms 25. I really like this psalm, so we're going to look at it a little bit deeper. In this psalm, I can feel the pain and heart of David. David is appealing to God for wisdom and forgiveness because of God's goodness to him and Israel. So in the first 7 verses, he is requesting guidance and pardon. It's a plea for wisdom. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. Oh my God, I trust in you. Let me not be ashamed. Let not my enemies triumph over me. And it goes on to show me, teach me, lead me, teach me over and over. You are the God of my salvation. On you I wait. No. Do I wait? Sometimes. But David is saying, I wait on you all day. And for me, being still sometimes is not something I do very easily. So in Psalms, this verses 1 through 7, David lifted up his soul to the Lord. David cried out, trusting confidently that God would not let him down or let his enemies overcome him. Remember your mercies, and he goes with, God, remember your mercy and kindness. Do not remember my sins. He's asking for forgiveness. So in verses 8 through 22, he repeats the same request. The mood changes from confidence in God's judgment to submission to God's guidance. Look how the words change. Good and upright. He's focusing on God. Good and upright is the Lord. And he teaches the sinners the way. He humbles, he guides in justice. And the humble, he teaches his way. All the paths of the Lord are mercy and truth. So he's talking about the goodness of God to God. For your name's sake, O Lord, pardon my iniquity, for it is great. So he repeats the same petitions for guidance and forgiveness. And he voices more of the character of God. So, and then in the last part, he's still at the same petitions for guidance and forgiveness, but he's beseeching God for help. Turn yourself to me. Have mercy on me. I am desolate and afflicted. The troubles of my heart have enlarged. Bring me out of my distress. I can relate to this psalm very much. And next week after WOW, there's going to be a session and a teaching, a workshop on depression. And a lot of these psalms have been real encouragement for me as I walk through some times that I had depression in my life. But look on my pain, forgive all my sins, keep my soul and deliver me. Let me not be ashamed. I put my trust in you. Through this psalm, the heart of the believer can be confident when they are repentative and submissive to God. So can you visualize this as you read? Can you put yourself in the author's position? When you're reading Psalm 29, some of the most visual, artistic images of God are in that psalm, and I'm not going to read that one for you. But the phrase, the voice of the Lord, occurs 7 times in verses 3 through 9. The Israelites often regarded things done 7 times as perfect acts of God, such as the creation. So I'll leave that for you to glean out of there. David praised God for his awesome power, comparing him to a severe thunderstorm in that psalm. Then we have the wisdom psalms. Some of the wisdom psalms were 1, 4, 37 in this particular section. Wisdom psalms give practical insights, moral teachings, and offer guidance on living a righteous and fulfilling life. They often draw parallels between wisdom and the fear of the Lord. These psalms contribute to the development of moral and ethical principles, providing timeless wisdom for navigating life with discernment for righteous living. Psalms 37 is so appropriate for our times, and I'm going to let you read in that. But in this wisdom psalm, David urged the righteous not to let the prosperity of the wicked upset them, but to continue to trust in God and his justice. And then we have Thanksgiving psalms. Thanksgiving psalms are expressions of gratitude, just what it like says, I'm thankful. Recounting the blessings and the acts of kindness from God to us. On my way here today, I heard a song I hadn't heard before, and on it says, I could not sing, there is not enough time for me to sing of all the blessings that I have. And so I'll have to look up that song and find out who that was. Reading the Thanksgiving Psalms help us cultivate a spirit of thankfulness in our own hearts and encourages us to reflect on the goodness of God for all he is for us and his provisions. Psalms 40. In this psalm, David offered himself as a sacrifice to God because the Lord had delivered him, and he also lamented his distress and prayed for salvation. Psalms 40 is a combination of thanksgiving, lament, and messianic. So that's where I say they're not always all just one type. There's a mixture of those in there. So this next week when you were reading, ask yourself these questions when you encounter a verbal artistic image. What is the literal picture? So a thunderstorm. So what does that thunderstorm bring up in your mind? For me, it brings in turmoil. So for me, my life is a thunderstorm right now. I would be in turmoil. Same, like what do the images make you visualize? Thunder, lightning, pouring rain, strong winds. I mean, I'm in total chaos if all that's going on in my life. And then what are some of the pictures of how God, what are some of the images of how God is pictured as you read through these? What are some of the images of how man is described? And where is the imagery that you see of Jesus? So, and as Christy mentioned last week, there are many songs we sing today taken directly from Scripture. And Psalms 25 is just one of those. And I would like you to join me, and Jenny's going to help, because this is an old chorus. I mean, I used to be a worship leader 20 plus years ago. And so when I'm reading Scripture, songs, as Terrell can confess when I was in her Bible study, oh, that's a song. So we're going to sing this song, and the first 3 lines are echoed, and then the last lines we sing together as ourselves. And so, Jenny, oh, she's over there. Are you ready? They can hear you good enough from down there? We can give you a microphone, but you can be down there. Okay. Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. Stand up. Oh my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed, let not my enemy triumph over me. Yea, let none that wait on thee be ashamed. Yea, let none that wait on thee be ashamed. Oh my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed, let not my enemies triumph over me. Show me thy way, thy ways, O Lord. Show me thy way, thy paths, O Lord. Oh my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed, let not my enemies triumph over me. Remember not the sins of my youth. Remember not the sins of my youth. Oh my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed, let not my enemies triumph over me. Thank you.